Welcome to our online chat session for postgraduate top applicants to the Graduate Institute for International Development, Agriculture and Economics, otherwise known as GIIDAE, here at the University of Reading. I'm Sarah Carty, I'm the director of the Graduate Institute, and I have two of my colleagues here, Anthony Keeple, who's our senior admissions tutor, and Chris Cagney, who is in our global engagement team with responsibility for sub-Saharan Africa. And we are here to answer some of the most commonly asked questions that we get from people who are applying, who hold an offer, and who want to know what to do before they arrive at Reading or what they need to facilitate their application. So the first question that we often get, and I'm going to throw this one to you, Chris, people get very concerned about the cost of living in the UK and whether it's expensive to live in Reading. What would you suggest?
What Reading offers is a London, kind of London close experience. So it's about 25 minutes from London, but unlike London, it has a much lower living cost. It's in terms of accommodation, you can usually find a room for between about £100 a week up to about £183, about £200 on campus. Then you can have a range of sizes on suites, different types of accommodation within that price range. Reading is, as I say, it's not the cheapest place to live within the UK. I would say it's probably average to above average, if I was absolutely honest, in terms of living costs. But as I say, London is one of the most expensive places to live in, certainly in the UK. It is the most expensive place to live in the UK. And Reading, it gives you that experience of proximity for this world city, and yet in an environment which is very green, is a kind of vibrant student experience and affordable, actually. Certainly the range of accommodation prices are quite affordable. There are services on campus to help you to manage money. There are budget supermarkets close by to the university. Lots of students will have their supermarket deliveries sent to their rooms or to their halls of residence to keep prices down, because obviously if you eat out every night or if you live a champagne lifestyle on a lemonade budget, then you will not make your money last. And so it's a big part of the student experience to manage your money. There are services on campus to help you to do that. And Reading offers, I would say above average living costs, but certainly above average living experience as well for some of those reasons I've mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Chris, it's only about half an hour into London, so you can go in for the day, have a field trip, and return home and not have to be spending that much. And for example, every Thursday there's a farmer's market on campus that offers very good quality fruits and vegetables to students at a really quite reasonable prices, certainly below supermarket costs. And I've been noticing that a lot of my students band together. They find out very quickly about which are the best supermarkets, and if they need to do a big grocery shop, sometimes they share a taxi ride if they've got too much to take on the bus with them. So there's a lot of different ways to make some smart savings, and usually the students who are here when new students arrive are more than happy to share their advice on that kind of stuff. Thank you. Another question that we get is around English language results. This is the time when people would really like to start making travel plans, and they fret a bit about whether or not they're going to be able to meet their IELTS results. Anthony, if people are worried about the English language results they need for their offer, or wondering could they be considered with a lower IELTS score, what would you suggest to them?
So I think the first thing to say is to not necessarily focus on IELTS, because obviously we accept a vast range of qualifications as demonstrating somebody's English language ability. Anyone who's received an offer with an English condition, there'll be a link in there that will take you to a web page which will list all the different qualifications that we accept. So the first thing is check to see if your qualification's on that list. The next thing is, if it is, great, send us a copy of the results and then we can go from there. If If you've taken an IELTS test, send us the results. There's still time to do another one if you haven't quite got the level that we have asked you to get. And in terms of whether you can join the programme with a slightly lower IELTS, the thing we have to say is we'll look at each case on an individual basis, but you have to bear in mind you have to be comfortable doing the programme. And actually, if your English isn't quite at the level that's needed, what we wouldn't want to happen is for somebody to join the course and struggle, maybe get lower marks and things, and at the end of the day not be as successful as they could have been. So it is important to try and keep that English level at the level that's needed.
And there's pre-sessional English that's available.
There is indeed, yeah. The pre-sessional is there as an alternative. So we offer courses ranging from 6 weeks up until a full year. And then for those who are maybe on the board or who have got the result but are still not quite as confident, we have the in-sessional or the academic English programme, which helps support students in various aspects, be it one element speaking or listening, or maybe in the writing element as they go through the programme. So yeah, there's definitely support available for, and alternatives available.
And we do offer tailored English language support to all of our students. So there's a module we have called Personal and Professional Development for international students. And through that we work with colleagues who are the ones who provide the pre-sessional English. They come and work on study skills. So it's not just being worried about English language, but having studied in the UK system before. Many of our students are in that position, and it's a different beast. There are different requirements, and so we want people to do as well as they can. So there are specific sessions that are set up, there are one-on-one sessions that are set up for our students. The tutors for our custom tailored program talk to our program directors and our module conveners to find out exactly what our students are strong in, where they could use some support, and there's support provided for them throughout the year, in addition to the extra support with the in-sessional English. And I have to emphasize that doesn't come at any extra cost. These are all services that are provided by the university for any registered student.
It's worth saying for Sub-Saharan Africa as well that Reading accepts a huge range of GCSE O-level equivalent grades as English language proof. So WIAC has accepted, NECO, UGCE for Uganda, KGCSE for Kenya. So all of those are very much a part of the accepted English language recognition scale. Some students will be surprised that we won't take the graduate, their degree as evidence of English, even though they may have studied an undergraduate degree and completed a degree with honours, first class, but that won't work for us as an English language proof, for the simple reason that we observe basically what the government issues in terms of recognition, and the African GCE O-level equivalents are basically what we call CEFR B2, which is jargon to say of a certain level. So it's that stage that really counts for the Sub-Saharan African English qualification.
I mean, I think that one of the take-home messages I'm getting from both of you is if you have any questions, ask us.
Definitely.
So if you don't know, if you, for instance, WIAC, I see a lot of the students applications that I've seen through, most of them would be fine with a WIAC result. So it's always worth emailing us and asking. And not to get too stressed out about it, because if you're just slightly below on the IELTS result, there are things that you can do to help you out, but we want you to succeed, and so that's part of the reason why the IELTS levels are in there. When Welcome Week happens, so if students are getting ready, because I know I've had a few emails through from students wanting to know, what can I do to get ready, what should I expect when I arrive at Reading? Chris, what would you say? Is there anything people need to do before they arrive at Reading? What kind of things will happen during Welcome Week?
Well, during the week before Welcome Week, we will welcome students from Heathrow. So if you're coming in by air, you can contact our international office, and that would just be internationally at Reading, and book yourself into be welcomed, basically, so that we're expecting you. That's the week before Welcome Week. We won't necessarily take you to campus, but we'll certainly give you a warm welcome. Among, I have to say, at Heathrow, quite a number of other universities. It's probably more of an honorary welcoming committee with students in Reading t-shirts and a bunch of other universities as well. It's quite a festival, so you just need to let us know you're coming. We'll expect you. We'll show you where to go and how to get to Reading, etc. From Heathrow. That's the week before. During Welcome Week itself, you're going to register. You're going to get your BRP card, which is your residence permit, basically. You're going to register on your programme. You're going to have the opportunity to go to Freshers Week, which is where you'll sign up for one of our 130 societies, 55 of which I believe are sporting societies. And just begin your journey in high style. Your accommodation should be arranged by them. In some limited cases, students won't yet have their accommodation ready. But so long as we are expecting you, then we will take care of you, make sure that you have somewhere to stay, etc. For a small number of students, the vast majority of students will be able to go straight into your accommodation, get set up, and begin your life at Reading.
Thank you. I know that when we arrive, you'll get an email from us ahead of time. You'll get a lot of emails telling you about different information about what to do when you register here, what to do when you arrive. You'll meet your course tutors. You'll be welcomed to the school. Our head of school will provide you with a welcome. I'll talk to you. You'll meet with your program directors. You'll go away in small program groups so you can see the other students that you'll be studying with. And we'll help you choose your modules. So you don't need to get too anxious about that. You can read all about them online, and we'll send you all the information you need to look at what your options are so you can think about it before you come. But then we'll be able to help you figure out what modules you want to take based on your interests and based on your career aspirations. We'll meet with people a couple of times. We'll have lots of coffee and cake to get to know you a bit better. And there's usually different welcome events. I know there's some really interesting events for international students. Last year there was a Bollywood party and a salsa party that the students really got into, whether they're familiar with Bollywood or salsa or not. So it's a bit of a festive spirit around here, and you will be given information about a booklet about all the things you need to remember, so that you don't have to worry about remembering everything. It'll all be written down and given to you. Another question we get a lot of is around funding and scholarships. Certainly the biggest question we get is there funding and are there scholarships available? So for postgraduate applicants to GIIDAE, we have a set of scholarships that we've created that are the GIIDAE scholarships, so the GIIDAE International Scholarship. There's a set that are country specific, and then there are then there's a scholarship set for UK and EU students. The scholarship deadline for the GIIDAE International Scholarship has already passed. There's a GIIDAE Nigeria Scholarship, and that deadline is the 15th of June. There's also a GIIDAE UK-EU Scholarship, that the deadline is also the 15th of June. And then there's a GIIDAE Alumni Scholarship, whose deadline is also the 15th of June. By and large, scholarships that are available are extremely competitive. So I tend to suggest that people apply for everything that they're eligible for. Don't count on one. We keep our website up to date with all of the scholarships that our students tend to have success with, the ones that we know about, and the ones that we can recommend people try applying for. Scholarship deadlines usually start in October and November of the year prior to study. So for instance, if somebody wants to apply for the Commonwealth in Chevening, you have to indicate interest by October or November of the year ahead of time. So at this point, there are not that many scholarships for full funding that are currently available. So you need to plan well in advance. We on our GIIDAE pages have a section about scholarships and funding that'll tell you all about the ones that we offer, as well as the ones that are external to the university. Chris, do you have any suggestions for people who are concerned about scholarships? Have you seen any good strategies for people hunting for them?
That's a great question. Kind of first thing I would note is that Reading is very, very strong for external scholarships. We have, so looking at Sub-Saharan Africa, we have at the moment 10 plus Nigerian students on TET Fund scholarships. I can tell you, I was looking through our range of students who are here on scholarships at the moment, and we have a good, from Nigeria, we have 3 or 4 from PTDF. We have students who are here on Chevening. The Chevening community overall is 20 plus students, I believe, on campus at the moment. So in terms of Reading, let's put it this way, in terms of Reading being an institution which is on the radar of these external funding bodies, as a research intensive, as a well-ranking university, we're very, very much in that game. In terms of a successful application, I would offer the suggestion that of the applications that I've read and the statements that I've read, conversations that I've had with funding body representatives, a really, really good message and a good statement is, how will you take what you've learned during during your course and apply it to the good of the nation from which you are, to which you're returning. Yes, it's about you, but not as much as it's really about what good you're going to do or how you can mobilise and create a benefit. I'm thinking about, for example, the Marshall Papworth scholarships, which is very much, their agenda is to do with helping subsistence level farmers build capacity, increase yield, and commercialise, move to a more commercial scale. And a good application is gonna tick that box and is gonna say, when I go back, I'm already partway through a career where I can help to achieve those aims. So you have to work out exactly what does that funding body want to achieve, what's the aims of that funding body, and how can you help to meet it in terms of what you've already done in your career, already done in your educational or voluntary experience, and not necessarily a 5-year plan, but certainly some indication of how you would mobilise that and how you would improve the situation when you return.
Thanks, Chris. And I can't agree with you more. I do some of the decision making around our scholarships, and the strongest applications are ones who have a very clear idea of, this is how I'm going to use what I've learned to contribute to my family, to my community, and being specific about why is it exactly that they want to come. Not, I am from a country where we don't have sufficient education system, because there are a lot of people who are in the same position. What is it about you? I have worked with a community-based organization for the last 10 years as a volunteer. That's really convincing. So tell us specifically about you as a person and your experience. It doesn't have to be paid, voluntary, helping people in the community, being involved. Tell us about what you've done, why you've done it, and why do you want to get the degree, where a lot of people are very much interested in your story, but they want to know your specific story and draw on your experience. So if there's an application form that says, please give me 300 words, provide 300 words about why you want to come and study, why you want to have a scholarship, what is it going to do. Don't just write 2 sentences. And I often see that, where applications are simply far too short with too little information for people to be able to make a decision. Because this is your chance for people to get to know who you are. There has been a question about, if you can't get a scholarship or you can't find a scholarship, what are other methods of funding available? Which is a very, very good question. So many people will be applying for some kind of scholarship and bursary, depending on where you're from in the world. there are different options. Some places will allow you to take out student loans. So for instance, if you're in the United States, the University of Reading, you can hold a US government student loan and study here. There are a number of different private institutions in that sense. Many of our students will have, their whole family will come together and help them to support if they're doing self-funding. So you can pay for yourself. What have you seen? Either Anthony or Chris?
I think, I think it is. It's looking for alternative organisations. Global and international companies and organisations will often have schemes that aren't necessarily widely publicised. So it's a case of doing some research and trying to find them and applying for all the ones that you think you're eligible for, so that it gives you the best chance of trying to get something. But as both you and Chris have already said, you have to make sure your applications are clever and that you're tailoring the application to each relevant scheme or organisational company that you're applying to, and not just using one generic application to try and stand the best chance of getting what you can.
I think that's right. I would issue a note of caution or awareness of the many scholarship websites which exist, which some of them may ask a fee to help you to find a scholarship. And I would just say be very careful before parting with any money from any online organisations that promise to help you do that, because there are a great many of them. So just a kind of brief note of caution on that. I would also say that in my experience, I've noticed there are, exactly as Anthony says, a surprising number of unexpected sources for funding. So, for example, there is a company called Finley's Flowers in Kenya, which was connected with the Swire scholarships. I met an alumnus earlier this year who had his funding covered by that organisation. He was working in the field of horticulture, and his position, his career was strong enough, and his engagement, his proposal for Swire was strong enough that he got the funding for that. And that was news to me, and I've been working in Sub-Saharan Africa for several years and I wasn't aware of that particular funding source. So I would say, look deeply, if you have access to alumni of UK universities, I would suggest talking to anyone who's been through the UK system to see if they either knew anybody or they themselves were supported by one of the less well-known funding sources. Obviously, everybody should know about Chevening, they should know about Commonwealth Shared, they should know about the Commonwealth scholarships. We have a couple of students that are funded by high commissions, so high commissions within country this year, again, which isn't widely publicised. So my suggestion would be that they're very competitive and not huge numbers of them. Another one would be slightly outside of GIIDAE's remit, but the World Meteorological Organization funds one student from each nation, I believe, every year. And we have a student from Nigeria, one from Uganda, and one from Kenya, all taking funding from the World Meteorological Organization, which is very, very specific to those subjects. But, training and taking those professionals from their countries to the next level of their career and really putting them at world-class status for their subject. So I guess I would say dig around, but be careful.
Yeah, I've got a number of students this year who are being supported by their workplace. So the private sector companies who recognize that having their training improved would improve the company's bottom line, and so they've been helpful. In some instances, while they might not pay for full fees or tuition, they'll cover part of the cost, so that it is possible to have savings, or they'll continue, for instance, to pay someone's salary while they're here. It doesn't cover all of the costs, but it does cover enough that the student can then save up or find other ways of balancing it. There have been people who've successfully put together a range of different pieces of funding, be it borrowing or family sponsorship, employer sponsorship, and topped it up with savings. So it's a good question, but yes, and if you have any questions, if you found a group that says they'll find you a scholarship for X fee, and you're not sure, you can always ask us, because the last thing any of us want is for a student to be scammed. That would be a disaster as far as I'm concerned. So if you do have any questions, you can ask us, and if we've heard of anything, we will let you know. A lot of people ask about employability and what kind of careers people who graduate from GIIDAE programs go on to have. A lot of people are very concerned. They want to get a job, which isn't surprising. So what kinds of organizations alumni to go to work in, and what kind of career support that you can get. While you're here at Reading, we do provide career support to all of the students. We bring career services in and work on a set of tailored sessions for all of our students. We run, just for GIIDAE students, we run 8 to 10 sessions a year on things like working with with how to network, how to improve your CV, social media, using things like LinkedIn. How do you present yourself the best? We do have sessions where we talk to the kinds of employers that our students are wanting to work for. So for instance, a lot of our students want to work in the NGO sector, some want to work in the UN sector, many want to work overseas, some want to go into research, and some want to go into the private sector. So we work with both the contacts that we have as professional associations and also our alumni to provide input and to get advice for our students. We've done a range of things, and we continue to experiment with the best ways to provide support for our students. This coming year, we're going to be having a set of question and answer sessions for our students with people who are working with a focus on agricultural economics, development studies, and agriculture, because we cover 3 very different sets of career goals. So we will get input from people who have been working in the field. Our alumni are usually really quite happy to engage. There is, and they'll often come and give talks, and if we want advice for our current students, they're usually really happy to provide it. And then we do the formal sessions that students can come to. Now, throughout the year, generally there's a lot of different services and a lot of different advice sessions and workshops that are provided by our career service. They have a huge calendar of activities each term for anybody who's registered as a student. They provide support on things like CVs, if you're not sure what a CV in the UK looks like, because there are different formats. There are things that you wouldn't put on a CV here in the UK that you would put on in many other places. So for instance, it's not common to put your age on a CV in the UK. Many employers are not actually allowed to ask you what your age is here, whereas that's extremely common in many other parts of the world. So they'll provide advice on how to tailor yourself. If you want to work for some place like the World Bank, how do you go about finding jobs there? So we work with different professionals to try to give you the answers. And we talk to our students when they arrive to find out what they're really interested in, so that we can then try to give you more sessions on that. We embed some employability into the curriculum, so we bring in people to provide specific support on like how to get into a career in communication for development, for instance. So we have career counseling and support specifically in the classroom. And many of us will actually design our assignments around simulated employment tasks. Sometimes the students don't realize it, but for example, one of the assignments you'll have in a communication module is how to design a communication strategy, which is something that you would be asked to do in the workplace. We have modules around project planning and appraisal, whereas if you're working in rural development, be it in the UK or overseas, you're going to be asked to design programs and to evaluate them, and we use case studies from real life examples. So you get experience in the classroom, and one of the things we do help you do is learn how to translate your classroom experience into the workplace. and that's been really well received. Another program that exists within the university that our students have been really engaged with is the STAR mentoring program. So alumni who are willing to mentor students will be paired up, so students will tell us what they're interested in, and our alumni team will look at what alumni volunteers we have, and they'll mentor them sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's via Skype and email, but from a huge range of backgrounds. And the feedback that we've been getting, and that I've been getting from students, has been extremely positive. They've been able to talk to people and to get advice from people who are doing the kind of job they want to have in 10 years' time. And that's been a really valuable experience for them. And a lot of our students have been signing up for it, and we're actively encouraging them to do that. If the alumni are coming to Reading to visit us, we often have them come and give a talk to the rest of the students, so everybody gets to benefit from it. But I would strongly encourage people to enroll in any of the mentoring programs and the student participation programs that they've got, because that can really help to bolster their career prospects when they graduate.
Yeah, we also offer for certain African countries, certainly this year, Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, and Kenya, we held offer holder events to meet alumni offer holder events, which were very good events. Basically, once you've applied for the university and you've joined our mailing list, then we can contact you to talk about what's on offer. If we are having an alumni meeting, I should just say as well, actually, at the risk of stating the obvious, alumni just means graduates of the university. Not everyone will have always used that term necessarily, so it just means somebody who's graduated from the university, somebody who has gone on to a good career. And yeah, we had offer holder and alumni meetings. There were good opportunities. Several of our postgraduate applicants had careers already and were already working in NGOs or in government or in universities. And so there's often a good opportunity to get some career development as well. I think our philosophy as a university is that your experience of Reading, first off, once you graduate, it's a lifelong experience, but from your first meeting or even your first visit to the website is the beginning of your relationship. And so as an offer holder, you are certainly a part of our community, and we want to talk to you and engage with you, and we want to introduce our alumni to you. So those are very positive meetings. From that, I can certainly tell you that maybe because 98% of Reading's research is rated of international standing, that's 98%. We have a very high ratio of staff in Sub-Saharan Africa again, working in universities as lecturers, as research staff. One Vice-Chancellor I met last time I was in Uganda. So very good career progression for anybody who wants to develop their career in the academy, in academia, and wants to become an educationalist. Reading is an excellent choice for that, and has, I think, an above average profile for graduates going on to work in universities. Yeah.
And I should mention, actually, if you look on our Facebook page, we had our inaugural GIIDAE Alumni Lecture. So we've just launched it, but James Dean, who is the Director for Policy and Research at BBC Media Action, gave a talk last Wednesday. That was our first alumni event. We streamed it live for alumni overseas, but also it's available on our Facebook page, so you can watch the event. But we created that so that we could create a community of our alumni and to help support them and provide insight, get people together. It was really interesting to me there because we had alumni from 1970s onwards, and it was fascinating. People who haven't necessarily come to our events before in the past, and we're really excited to talk to each other. So different places in their careers, obviously, but a lot of community goodwill. and a lot of interest in continuing to foster the GIIDAE community and the Reading community, because we do find we are a home for people who are not just within the Graduate Institute, not just within agriculture, but other schools certainly will come and participate. We do collaborate a lot with groups across the university. I think we're almost out of time, but a couple of final questions. Anthony, I know that one of the things that people have been concerned about is the upcoming Brexit. And I was wondering if you could suggest or could tell us, will that have an effect on people's applications? What kind of effect are we expecting for students?
So I think for those that are starting in 2018, so this coming autumn, it's situation normal at the end of the day. If you are currently an EU student, you're counted as an EU student, and you pay the same fees as a home student. If you're from outside of the EU, then obviously there's no impact there. I should probably say that actually where you come from doesn't really have an impact on your application. At the end of the day, we're looking at you as an individual and looking at your academic, professional and personal merit. So in that sense, what happens beyond sort of 29 March 2019, there's going to be no change to how we actually look and how we consider an application. Everyone can still apply. The only thing we don't know at the moment is the situation with regards to current EU students as to what the tuition fees will be. And we await information from the government, which will then feed into what the university will be able to do moving forwards. But yeah, so I would say don't let it worry you, and really, and still apply. If you're interested, then make that application. And then we will consider you as an individual, regardless of where you come from.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. Chris?
There's one of the kind of contexts in the discussion about Brexit is the UK still a welcoming place for international students? And I've had that question directed to me once or twice, so it's probably worth addressing it today. Yes, it is. Very, very much the UK sector continues to be extremely internationalised. We have 4,000 international students here at Reading, and the UK higher education experience is inconceivable without all of those international students. So we're an extremely internationalised, extremely welcoming sector, and particularly this university is as well, to such an extent that we have worked hard within our visa compliance work over the last few years to have attained a status for postgraduate students whereby you, at the moment, postgrad students can stay for 3 months after they graduate, but Reading is one of 22 universities which has been piloted to allow students to stay for 6 months after they graduate. So it's not the post-study work visa that was in place a few years ago, but certainly you have, if you come to Reading or one of the 20 other universities out, that's 120 universities in the UK, you will be able to remain in the UK for 6 months after you graduate, and your application, your visa application is streamlined. Now, I can't give you any detail on what that streamlining is, because it's an extremely complex legal area, which you will find when you apply. Complex but straightforward. But if you do want advice on how to get through the visa application process, on the ways that it's streamlined, you can email our student help team, which is studenthelp@reading.ac.uk. That's studenthelp@reading.ac.uk, and that is a highly qualified team of professional visa advisors, basically, who, as an offer holder, you have the right to draw upon for advice to make sure that you get the right result when you apply for your visa. So Brexit, yeah, it's a change, I think, for us as a country overall, as a sector. We're still working out what that's going to mean. But for international students, certainly, It's business as usual, and Reading is a very favourable place to apply for and to remain in the UK after you graduate.
Thank you, Chris. I mean, GIIDAE itself is a highly international institute. The school itself is highly international for our postgraduates, but 80% are not UK, EU. I like to say that we look like the UN with slightly less arguing, or substantially less arguing, depending on the day. So you're not going to be alone. You're going to be in the company of other people who are having a similar experience to you. And with the staff and whose ethos, we are very used to international students, and the values of the school are to be welcoming, progressive, professional, and inclusive. So we want to make sure you have a very positive student experience. And to be honest, in the classroom, I find the diversity an incredible richness. And so the gift of experience that people from around the world bring has been a real benefit to everybody. So thank you very much for joining us for this session. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them through Facebook, and we will be happy to answer them. Do go on our GIIDAE Facebook sites, but also the website. If you would like to meet one of the University of Reading representatives overseas, Chris and his colleagues travel quite frequently. You can look on the website for our global engagement team, or you can always email us and we can find out where they're going to be in your country. So thank you very much, and we hope you have a lovely day.